accidentally insulting the powerful. Economic reasons too. Romans were obsessed with status. Without limits on purple, rich elites would compete in fashion wars and bankrupt themselves. Rome had learned excessive rivalry among the wealthy led to democracy's fall. So restricting purple was the ancient version of calm down, or it'll end badly. Breaking the rules meant harsh punishment. Wearing purple without permission was abusing power or faking identity. It wasn't a fashion mistake, it was a legal crime. Rome banned a color not whimsically, but to maintain clear class hierarchy. Hierarchy meant less conflict meant less violence meant the empire endured. If snail dye could help avoid that, Rome saw it as a profitable deal. In ancient Rome, mourning was allowed, but excessive dramatic grief was seen like uncontrolled fire. Romans believed unchecked public emotion spread quickly with bad consequences. 1 shouts, 10 join, 10 cry, a crowd gathers. A crowd means riot prep, so mourning was regulated. Professional mourners existed hired to wail, tear hair, dramatically express sorrow. Even they had rules. How loud, how long, how dramatic. Hired mourners at full volume on streets could unsettle the city. Especially women were banned from excessive public mourning, loud crying, self-harm, dramatically tearing hair or fainting in streets. Not discrimination against women, but these drew crowds, and crowds meant chaos. To Rome, who started chaos didn't matter. What mattered was if it started, not about suppressing emotion. Private, family mourning was fine, crying, remembering the dead. But public dramatization was banned because funerals were emotional events. And emotional events were dangerous in a city full of rumors, rivalries, ambition, class reasons too. Rich families could afford big, dramatic funerals. Poor couldn't. If mourning became competition, louder cries, bigger processions, it turned into status battles. Rome knew elite public competition meant someone's death, often democracies, so mourning amounts were set. It was birth control for emotion. Rome knew emotions were contagious. Anger spreads, fear spreads, grief spreads. Once spreading starts, law fails. Unlimited public grief was like open flame in a granary. Regulating it wasn't cruelty, it was prevention. In ancient Rome, dinner was never just food. It was politics, performance, psychological warfare, sometimes literally served on silver platters. Rome decided of boasting at table, strict rules applied. These were sumptuary laws. They controlled how much food, how many guests, even ingredients. Not because Romans hated fun, but they'd discovered a terrifying truth. The rich can't stop boasting on their own. Without controls, elite Romans competed at banquets, bigger events, rarer foods, farther imports. Not harmless luxury. Families. Bankrupt, then corruption, bribes to recover, destabilizing the state. Rome had seen this movie and hated the ending. So government intervened. Banquet, but reasonably. Limits on meat amounts, luxury ingredients, excess spending. Yes, Rome really said, eat fewer peacock tongues. Not to save the poor from envy, to save the state from elite folly. When powerful families compete socially, alliances break, debts rise, politics poisons. Rome knew fastest way to destroy republic was let elites indulge status addiction. Moral side too. Excess luxury ruins discipline. Soft people make bad leaders. Needing 7 courses to feel important is a symptom. Of course, Romans hated these laws. Complained, loopholes, reclassified foods. Rome made new laws. This dance lasted centuries. But purpose same. Prevent dinner becoming political weapon competition. Rome preferred bland banquets over civil war. In ancient Rome, one rule surprises most. The paterfamilias had extraordinary legal power over the family. Family meant not just kids, adults, sons, daughters, grandchildren, slaves, property, money hole, domestic world. Yes, married adult son with kids, maybe balding. Still under father's legal control. Power included economic control, marriage decisions, career and early on. Life and death, right? Sounds horrific, sometimes was. But system didn't arise randomly. Born from deep fear of chaos, Rome saw family as mini-state. Every state needs one ruler, no committee, no group chat. One word ends arguments. Efficiency over emotion. No widespread police. No social safety net. Families related. Father's power ensured. One accountable. Something wrong, debt, crime, scandal. Rome knew whose fault. Accountability over fairness. Often missed. Power came with duty. Father responsible for everyone's debts, crimes, survival under his roof. Family ruined. No excuses. System reduced household rebellion, enforced unity, made family stable economic unit. Rome wanted not happy families, predictable ones. Over time, power softened, abuse socially condemned, but structure endured because it worked. Roman families stable, regularly producing soldiers, workers, heirs, taxpayers. That's all state needed. So yes, Roman fathers had terrifying power, not for cruelty, but fear of chaos. Between emotional comfort and social stability, Rome chose stability, then enshrined it in law. One of ancient Rome's achievements. Public toilets, long stone benches with evenly spaced holes. No privacy, everyone side by side doing business and chatting. Not social failure, Roman efficiency. Of course, rules here too. Public latrines, regulated because, in a city over 1 million, sanitation was survival. Disease didn't knock, politely, invaded aggressively. Behavior rules. No lingering, no splashing, no rowdiness. Talk okay, but no drama. Rome wanted order, not performance. Most infamous, shared sponging stick dipped in salt water. Panic before. Remembering germ theory undiscovered. Salt water seemed clean enough. Few months in Rome, standards changed. Rules avoided chaos. Seat fight, lingering, turning into social club caused crowds. Crowds meant filth. Filth, disease. Disease. Panic. Panic, instability. Rome disliked instability. Social side, too. Public latrines, temporarily equalized. Rich poor sit beside. Same task. Odd Roman equality expression. Rich and poor shared bench. Senator and shopkeeper. Rome liked it. Tremended citizens hierarchy existed, but all part of same system. Yes, even human waste regulated. Waste. Washing clothes. Agriculture. Stealing from latrines fined. Rome wasted nothing. To moderns, Roman toilets horrific. To Romans, infrastructure, marvel flowing water, drainage, organization, rules. Rome didn't care about comfort, cared citizens not die preventable diseases. So yes, ancient Rome regulated bathroom behavior. Not overreach without rules, civilization stinks. In ancient Rome, night wasn't romantic or mysterious. No moonlit strolls. Night meant bad decisions on duty. After sunset, Rome became different city. Dim lights, cramped buildings, fire spread easy, criminals active, political plots loved darkness, like mosquitoes, open skin. So Rome did what it always did, saw danger, assumed you guilty until morning, proved innocent. Night streets meant suspicion. Guards patrolled, questioned people. No good reason out at night. Rome assumed planning, crime, or already done. Not paranoia experience. Most fires, night lamps, torches, indoors. Most thefts, night shops. Closed streets empty. Most murders, assault. Secret meetings. Night fewer witnesses. Shadows, allies. Rome's solution. Discourage night movement. Out, need, reason work. Emergency, official. Fresh air walk not acceptable. Night watch powerful. Resisting bad idea. Rome. Willing, inconvenience, innocence. Unwilling, give criminals freedom. Recurring Roman theme. Fire risk too. Rome burned off terrifyingly often. Whole neighborhoods
Design the
ash
perfect voice
overnight.
for your brand with electric
Reducing
lamps.
night movement cut accidental fires. Easier identify culprits if fire started. Elites no exception. Senators, bodyguards, rich. Stayed home. Darkness equalized. Rome hated uncertainty. To moderns, oppressive. To Romans, rational. City huge, crowded, unstable darkness, untrustworthy. Night unpredictable. Unpredictability Rome's greatest enemy. So yes, night walkers suspected, not hating freedom, but uncomfortable truth. Most disasters don't announce. Happen silently in dark. Rome preferred rude over surprised. In ancient Rome, suicide wasn't automatically illegal. Surprising, but illegal. Dying without proper paperwork. Rome many things, not place for impulsive self-end. Roman citizen wanting suicide. Formal application to authorities with reasons. Illness, unbearable shame, intolerable pain. Honor laws acceptable. Bad weak not, to modern ears, cruel. 2. Rome, administrative common sense. Every citizen tied duties. Family depended debts involved. Inheritance through them. Political alliances relied. Sudden death, especially self-inflicted, caused chaos legal tangles, inheritance disputes. Angry creditors, confused heirs, sometimes violence. Rome hated death more than chaos, requiring applications separated impulsive from permanent decisions. Many rejected not prolonged suffering, but Rome knew overwhelmed people make terrible choices. Wait for approval meant delay. Delay thinking time. Thinking saved many lives. Legal incentives too. Unauthorized suicide. State could seize property. Family lost inheritance. Debts unpaid. Rome, clear. Irresponsible death. Financial rudeness. Approved suicide. Dignified. Property protected. Family punishment free. Society saw tragic but orderly. Rome preferred paperwork, sorrow over paperwork-free chaos. Darker purpose. Rome needed citizens, soldiers, taxpayers, administrators. Unlimited self-removal. Weakened system. To Rome, such states slowly bled out, so suicide tolerated only fitting Rome's logic. To us, overreach. To Rome, prevented. Rome, ask not you suffering. Ask this destabilize everything. If yes, no answer for you. In ancient Rome, women's clothing wasn't personal choice. Public statement state felt fully entitled control. Roman law strict limits women's dress, jewelry, visible wealth. How much gold, how flashy gown, how shiny. Before society, uncomfortable questions. Rome calculated. To modern ears, moral panic. To Rome, damage control. Elites problem status, competition. Women's fashion, fastest weapon. Expensive jewelry, imported fabrics. Exaggerated looks, social events, silent wealth battles. One necklace invited bigam. One gown demanded more exaggerated. Rome thought. This how republics die. State intervened. Limit visible luxury slow. Arms race. Laws modern sense, not restraint for preventing elite families bankrupt outdoing each other. Rome seen politicians, financial ruin, then corruption recover. Social clarity, question 2. Rome relied visible hierarchy. Clothing signaled marital status, social rank, moral expectations. Married woman's modest dress meant stability, respectability. Excess display meant independence. Worried Rome, Rome feared, not women unpredictable. Jewelry. Limits protected family financially. Public gold, walking wealth. Theft, envy, resentment followed. Rome wanted wealth hidden, locked, accounted, taxable. Naturally, Roman women hated laws, bent them layered jewelry, loopholes, borrowed, exaggerated hairstyles. Men loudly complained. Quietly admired. Lawmakers imposed new limits. Everyone ignored. Cycled centuries, but purpose same. Rome not erase women public life. Prevent status, competition, financial bloodletting. To Rome, controlling women's appearance, controlled social. Pressure. Order-loving society. Control pressure, or it controls you. So yes, Rome told women what to wear, not hating beauty, fearing unchecked beauty's political damage. To modern viewers, gladiators, ancient superstars, crowds cheered names, graffiti walls, souvenirs with images. Some found Amadaday's comment sections familiar, but ancient Rome law looked long at gladiators, said, no famous, but legal status, infamous, dishonored, lost basic rights, no vote, no office, testimony worthless. Law's eyes closer, criminals than celebrities Rome, hated mixed signals, gladiators professionally violent, killed or died entertainment. Rome understood excess glory dangerous. If people saw heroes, violence normalize
This is
outside
Abdul
arena.
from Kulna. He wants
Rome
to start selling
wanted.
online. He just needs a domain name.
Violence organized,
AbdulsEmporium.com.
scheduled,
Perfect.
ticketed. Dishonor mental firewall. Yes, admire skill. Yes, cheer, but respectable imitation. No. Rome wanted admiration, not emulation. Class concerns too. Gladiators, often slaves, prisoners, poor. Successful, gained full honor. Social mobility, unpredictable rise. Rome, inflexible hierarchy. Even voluntary freemen gladiators lost status. Arena. Entry consent, lose social rank. Money, fame, attention, yes but lies. Eyes, honor, no. No refund. Deterred ambitious youth, abandoned army, civic career for arena glamour. Rome needed soldiers, administrators, more sword-wielding influencers, yet contradiction remained. Romans loved gladiators, fantasized, gossiped, collected sweat, cosmetics true. Rome just prevented admiration, power dot. So gladiators, odd limbo crowd. Favorites, law rejects. Famous, untouchable, celebrated, restricted. Rome understood uncomfortable truth, glorified spectacle. Spectacle eventually rules. Rome never let helmet trident man run state. In ancient Rome, religion never personal belief. Public safety system, fail God's contract share. Rome saw spiritual mistake as negligence hazard. Romans believed God's relationship transaction. Proper rituals, gods maintain order. Mistake, God's angry sudden fire, crop failure. Everyone asks, who angered Jupiter this week? So Rome enforced religious contracts. Strictly. Public officials, sacrifices, prayers, rituals, utmost care. Wrong word, time, animal, gesture ritual, invalid. Invalid, repeat immediately. Half-pleased God, worse none. Ordinary citizens, no exception. Vows to God's legal obligation. Break. Fine. Shame, punishment. To Rome, not superstition, risk management. No meteorologists, epidemiologists, disaster forecasts. Something wrong. Divine displeasure, rational explanation. Explanation, divine anger. Urgent action. System political too. Religion, united people, common rituals. Created predictability. Everyone knew festival when. Sacrifice meaning. Bad event. Someone skipped protocol, dash investigate. Importantly, Rome didn't care inner belief. Belief optional. Participation mandatory. Doubt gods privately, okay? Long public rituals, correct? Rome valued behavior, not belief. Pure Roman view. Breaking religious contract risked collective trust. People think God's displeased. Panic spreads. Panic instability. Instability chaos. Rome disliked chaos. So yes, Rome punished displeasing, invisible beings. Not irrationality. Rome understood shared belief system, weird or not, held society together. To Rome, keeping God's happy theology, not dash infrastructure. In ancient Rome, words harmless, not dangerous weapons, sharp, contagious, burn city without flame. Rome understood modern societies relearn painfully. Wrong place, wrong time, influential. Speaker damages more than army dot. So Rome monitored public speech closely. No standing anywhere addressing crowd. Not free expression, suspicious behavior. Unauthorized speech, potential threat, specially criticizing officials. Emotional language, promises fix everything. Rome seen before. Charismatic speakers stir. Resentment. Resentment gathers crowds. Crowds demand. Demands violence, murder, civil war. Rome preferred boredom, bloodshed. Only specific people, official places, public speech, magistrates, senators, priests, explicit permission. Even then, tone rules. Calm, restrained, controlled. Shouting, condemned. Stirring emotion, risky. Speech, crowd felt too much. Rome noticed. Control. In politics too. Election campaign limits. Personal attacks regulated. Large gatherings permission. Rome not stop debates turning crowd action. Spontaneous crowds, Rome distrusted utterly. Sudden people around speaker. Authorities assumed trouble. No one thought inspiring speech. Thought who manipulating whom. Class-side too. Elites trained rhetoric. Common people not. Unlimited public speech. Influence unpredictable people. Uninvested order. Rome against ideas, not unpredictable influence against. So Roman leaders spoke specific places, high platforms, scheduled times. Structure mattered, control mattered. City already noisy enough. So yes, Rome controlled who, where, how spoke, not hating. Speech fearing, speech emotions, hands becomes. Rome trusted law, distrusted crowds. Never forgot revolutions often start someone saying, listen up. In ancient Rome, adultery, not personal relationship issue, public threat. Rome asked, not you happy? Asked this cause, legal chaos 3 generations later. Roman law, adultery, crime. Romans not moral Puritans obsessed lineage, inheritance, social clarity. Whose child, father, crucial. Property, citizenship, family alliances, political future, all depended correct paternity. Adultery introduced uncertainty. Rome hated uncertainty. Married woman's affair, not romance, question. Legitimacy. This child whose property who gets. Which family gains power, losers. One affair overturned generational legal plans. Rome wanted to stop immediately. Men, different rules affairs, slaves, prostitutes, usually tolerated no inheritance threat. Hypocrisy. Absolutely. But consistent Roman priorities. Married woman's adultery legal consequences. Husband's forced act. Fathers. Intervene. Courts involved. Not heartbreak, restore order. Prevent rumors, lawsuits violence. Political side too. Elite marriages, strategic alliances. Affair threatened alliance. One family insulted. Revenge. Romanov civil wars. Didn't want domestic scandals, political bloodshed. Public punishment deterred. Making adultery visible, punishable, discouraged. Risky behavior. Message simple. Romance your business, lineage roams. Yes, Romans gossiped endlessly. Adulterers. Public trials, spectacles. Reputation crucial. Shame weapon. Rome used generously. To moderns, overreach. To Romans, preventive law. Rome criminalized, not discernity. In society built inheritance. Name, family, power. Not knowing belonging, more dangerous hurt feelings. Rome always chose stability over sympathy. In ancient Rome, death inevitable. But turning competitive sport strongly discouraged. Romans valued funerals, highly so decided. Regulate, unregulated. Funerals became loud, expansive. Emotional performances solved nothing, destabilized everything. Funerals, public events, processions, streets, mourners gathered, speeches, emotion, overflowed. Rome repeatedly learned unpleasant
morning.
lesson. Money,
Thank
grief,
you. Thank you.
crowds
ASEAN
mixed quickly,
video nói chuyện.
trouble. Rich families
Wow,
especially
mobile.
turned funeral status displays. More mourners, musicians, professional wailers, expensive coffins or more. Dead not honored living families, props, social competition needed calm down. So Rome intervened. Funeral laws limit spending, participants, procession splendor, even. Gold, buried dead, not disrespect, dead, prevent grief, political drama, economic concerns too. Excess spending, bankrupt families. Debt, resentment. Resentment lawsuits, fights, sometimes knives. Rome wanted grief end, tears, not court. Public. Emotion, another problem. Big funerals drew crowds. Crowds excited. Excited crowds listened speeches. Speeches emotional. Emotional speeches political. Suddenly protest, funeral disguise. Rome seen before, disliked. Excess splendor reduced. Death personal, controlled, predictable. Grief family matter. Not city event could cause instability. Of course Romans complained. Rich hated spending rules. Families bent rules. Held quiet ceremonies, anything quiet. Rome knew rules. Everyone pretended listen. But purpose, same. Rome feared not. Death people given stage death. What did? Drama-filled city needed no spotlight grief, Rome decided. In ancient Rome, freedom real, but conditional. Very Roman conditional. Slave freed, not instantly full citizen sunset. Became freedman, freedwoman, legally free, but obligations former. Owner now, politely patron. Same relationship, better branding to modern ears. Freedom with homework. To Rome, brilliant compromise. Rome, heavily dependent slavery. Sudden mass freeing. Social chaos. Thousands new citizens. No wealth, support, loyalty, existing power. Rome disliked unpredictability, so patron-client system used. Freed people, loyalty. Respect, often services former owner. Might work, political support, financial help. Exchange patron protection, legal aid, social access. Dependency, yes, but stable dependency. Rome always preferred slow change, sudden. System protected, freed. 2. No patron, exploitation, poverty, violence, victims. Rome, no social security, security relationships. Patronage gave freed society, place imperfect. Political reasons too. Patrons gained loyal supporters. Freedmen voted, campaigned, boosted patron. Influence. Helped elites
Hello,
maintain
everyone.
power. Limited social mobility.
Thank you, Nasian. Follow me. Thank
Rome
you.
loved systems. Everyone thought gained, though gains unequal. Yes, some freedmen impossibly successful, rich, influential, respected. Still status, reminder. Gratitude, expected. Loyalty, monitored. Freedom, not erased past dot. To modern view, restricted. To Rome, safe. Rome wanted not revolution-controlled transformation. So freedom came obligations. Not hating freedom understanding. Structure-free freedom explodes. Rome preferred paperwork, slow change,
Wow,
right, sudden
nice video,
change.
thank you.
If
Share
ancient
video,
Rome
thank
can
you.
truly be
I love
defined
you.
by one idea,
Wow.
it's this:
Thank you, bro.
Nothing was
Donate,
ever
I love
purely
you.
personal.
Oh my God, no
Not your
bomb.
clothes, not your family,
Wow.
not your love life, not
Hello,
even the promises you made to
me.
invisible gods. Rome believed personal behavior didn't stay personal for long. It
Hello,
spread,
Atika.
multiplied, and eventually became a public problem.
Hello, everyone.
So Rome intervened early.
Hi, Novin.
To the Romans,
Hello, me,
the state
Cody.
wasn't something distant. It was everywhere in the
Thank
home,
you.
the family, rituals,
no
daily
bomb.
habits. The
Hello,
logic was
Nan.
simple and relentless.
Nanki.
If enough people
Wow.
make bad decisions, society
Oh my
collapses.
God.
And
Hello,
Rome had
me.
faced collapse so
Wow.
many times that it developed a
Oh
deep
my
allergy
God,
to it.
No bomb.
That's why Rome regulated morality, behavior, and daily routines.
Live video, thank you.
Not to micromanage
Share
joy,
video,
but to
thank you.
spot
Wow.
patterns.
Thank you, bro.
Personal
Donate, I
excess
love you.
turned into public debt.
Hello, Sam.
Personal
Sam.
scandal turned into
Wow,
feuds.
no bomb. Oh my
Feuds
God, no
into
bomb.
violence. Violence into instability. Instability into civil war. And those who survived civil wars wrote the new laws. Rome wanted to skip that part. From the Roman perspective, telling people how to behave wasn't tyranny, it was maintenance. The state didn't trust individuals to always act in the collective interest, especially when emotion, pride, or desire was involved. So it added rules, many rules. Perhaps too many rules, but rules that worked. And here's the uncomfortable truth. For centuries, it really did work. Rome managed vast populations, diverse cultures, and constant pressure without modern technology. It held itself together through systems, discipline, and relentless
No bomb.
control. People didn't have modern freedoms, but they had predictability, and that predictability kept the machine running. Of course, Rome eventually fell. Rules alone don't save an empire forever, but they delayed ruin far longer than chaos would have. So when we look at Roman laws and think this is madness, we often miss the context.
Oh my God, no bomb.
Rome didn't want to be humane. It wanted to survive. And survival, in Rome's understanding, meant limits in emotion, behavior, ambition, sometimes even joy. Rome didn't ask, is this fair? It asked, will this prevent everything from falling apart? And for a long time, the answer was yes. That's why Rome's strangest rules weren't mistakes. They were warnings. Vincent van Gogh was born in 1853 in the small Dutch village of Zondata, a place so quiet
Wow,
it
no
seemed to
bomb.
amplify the sounds inside you.
Hello.
He came into the world
Wow.
exactly 1
Thank
year
you, Nasian,
after a
follow
brother
me.
who was
Wow.
stillborn,
Thank you, bro.
also
Donate,
named
I love you.
Vincenta.
Oh my God, no bomb,
Facts
no
that
bomb.
silently haunted his sense of identity for the
gosh.
rest of his life. From childhood, he grew up with this uneasy awareness that he
my
was,
God, wow,
in
no,
some way,
wow, mom.
a replacement.
Oh my God, wow.
Every Sunday, walking
Wow.
past a grave with his own name on it reminded him how fragile, random, and painfully symbolic life could be. His father was a Protestant minister, strict but sincere. His mother was artistic, loved painting flowers and carefully arranged nature. From her,
Hello.
Vincent inherited sensitivity
Hello.
to color and form.
Hello.
From
Oh
his
my
father,
God.
a moral seriousness that later turned into obsession. He wasn't a cheerful child. Teachers described him as intense, strange, distant. While other children played, Vincent watched. He observed people the way many observed the weather silently.
Oh my God.
Trying to discern patterns, school didn't suit him.
Follow me.
He drifted from place to place, unable to settle, growing increasingly isolated.
Oh my God.
Social rules seemed artificial to him, like poorly written instructions everyone else pretended to understand.
Oh my God.
He wanted meaning, purpose, something absolute. When he spoke, he often said too much. When he felt too deeply. This combination didn't make him popular. In late adolescence, Vincent began working at the art dealership, Goupil and Company. Ironically, he sold paintings long before he ever painted one himself. At first, he was skilled, even promising. But again, intensity upset the balance. He despised art buyers, felt disgusted by commerce, believed art should be sacred, not bought and sold like furniture. He lectured clients. Management was not pleased. In letters to his brother Theo during these years, you see a man at war with himself. Vincent wanted to be useful, important, to serve something higher, God, humanity. Truth. He tried religion, teaching, preaching to minors, giving away clothes, sleeping on the floor in martyr-like practice. Each attempt ended the same way. Rejection, failure, silence. By his 30s, Vincent was broke, unemployed, mentally exhausted. Yet beneath the failures, something restless was sharpening. He hadn't yet firmly gripped a brush, but the hunger was there. The need to make the inner storm visible. The quiet village that once confined him had, without knowing it, shaped a man who would later make the whole world feel his unrest. When Vincent van Gogh was nearing 30, failure had become a familiar companion. Religion, teaching, moral dedicational paths quietly closed their doors in his face. Almost reluctantly, he turned to art as a last refuge. Painting wasn't a childhood dream fulfilled. It was a final shelter where his intensity could become purpose instead of burden. At first, he didn't aim to be great. He aimed to be honest. He began drawing peasants, workers, tired faces, bent backs. These were people he understood, not socially, but spiritually. He studied anatomy excessively, filling notebooks with hands, boots, spines, skulls. Early work was dark, heavy, almost muddy as if light had to fight to survive on the canvas. To Vincent, beauty wasn't decorative. It was earned through patience. During this time, his brother Theo became more than family, a lifeline. Patron, emotional. Anchor. Theo sent money regularly, not out of obligation, but belief. In return, Vincent sent letters, hundreds of them opened, philosophical, painfully sincere. In these letters, you see a man endlessly questioning his worth, his sanity, and whether his suffering was the price of seeing the world clearly. He studied art formally in fragments, never fitting into academic systems. He admired artists who painted ordinary life with dignity, not fantasy. He rejected polish. He wanted truth, even if ugly. This mindset slowed his progress, increased frustration. He destroyed work, started over, criticized himself with a cruelty no teacher could match. Loneliness intensified everything. Vincent was desperate for connection, yet pushed people away with the same force. He fell in love recklessly, often with women who didn't return his feelings. Each rejection deepened his belief that he was fundamentally mismatched with the world. Yet he painted not for joy, but because not painting felt worse. What began to emerge in these years wasn't skill, it was vision. Vincent was learning how to see, not surface weight of emotion. A field wasn't just landscape. A face wasn't just a face. Everything became charged with inner meaning. Art was no longer a profession. It became survival. In the letters from this period, Vincent appears as a man trapped between hope and dread. One moment he speaks of future plans, new techniques, belief that his work will eventually matter. The next, he expresses fear that his illness will suddenly return, that his mind will betray him again. The calm he feels seems temporary, borrowed, fragile. Vincent felt profoundly alone, surrounded by nature and people, yet mentally isolated. He couldn't fully connect or rest. The intensity that fueled his art made ordinary life exhausting. He could paint endlessly, but living in peace seemed impossible. The rural landscape of Auvers-sur-Oise reflected this tension. Beautiful, open, alive yet full of unrest. Vincent didn't paint calm fields. He painted fields under pressure, turbulent skies, paths going nowhere. These weren't scenes of rest. They were confessions. This final chapter wasn't a sudden plunge into darkness, but a slow contraction of hope. Vincent kept working because work held him together. Beneath the productivity, shadows remained patient, waiting, growing heavier. Each day as summer deepened in Auvers, Vincent's days fell into a quiet, almost ritual rhythm. Each morning he walked into the fields with easel and paints, returning hours later, exhausted, sunburnt, silent. To an outside observer, he seemed disciplined, even calm. But to Vincent, silence was never empty. It was heavy. It pressed inward. Painting was his anchor, yet it no longer comforted it, only postponed. Each finished canvas brought temporary order, then immediately the familiar question, what next? He worked at a pace that felt more like necessity than inspiration, as if stopping would let something worse rise. His relationship with Theo weighed on him. Theo's health was failing, his job uncertain, his family growing. Vincent felt, perhaps rightly, perhaps not, that the support he relied on wouldn't last forever. This fear cut deep. The thought of being the cause of suffering for the one person who believed in him was unbearable. In letters, anxiety grows apologies for surviving, for spending money, for needing care. Even as recognition arrived, it brought no certainty inside Vincent. Praise came late, softly. He didn't see himself as a misunderstood genius. He saw himself as unfinished, restless, unresolved. The world wasn't willing to meet him halfway, and he lacked the strength to reach it. The paintings from this time grow, darker in mood without losing intensity. Color remains bold, but harmony frays. Crows slice the sky, paths fork and vanish. Horizons tilt slightly, never offering rest. These works hang between motion and collapse, as if the ground itself shared his unrest. Vincent spoke less of the future. Plans dissolved into vague possibilities. What remained was exhaustion, mental, emotional, physical. Years of inner battle had worn him down. Not dramatically, but quietly. Not one breaking moment, but accumulation. The rural landscape that once promised peace now seemed indifferent. Vast open spaces amplified loneliness instead of freedom. Vincent had always lived intensely, and intensity demands energy. At this stage, energy was nearly spent. This chapter of his life is defined not by chaos, but by weight. A man still working, seeing, creating yet carrying a silence there was no escaping. In late July 1890, Vincent's life contracted to its final, fragile form. The days were warm, wheat fields high and restless in the wind. From the outside, there was no dramatic announcement at the end, no public breakdown. No final manifesto. Vincent continued his routine, walking, painting, returning home. Yet inside, something had silently reached its limit. One afternoon, Vincent walked alone into the fields. With him, as always, his equipment. But this time, painting wasn't enough. What happened was an impulsive madness. It was a wary man's negotiated decision after years of pain. He shot himself in the chest. The wound wasn't immediately fatal. Incredibly, Vincent walked back to his lodging. He collapsed into bed, bleeding, conscious, calm. When asked, he spoke little. No anger, no dramatic explanation, just acceptance. Theo was summoned immediately. Theo arrived to find his brother weak but lucid. Over the next 2 days, they spoke in low voices. Vincent expressed no regret. Instead, he spoke with clarity, even relief. He told Theo the sadness would never end. The words weren't dramatic, they were surrender. Trying to live with intensity in a world that demands moderation, he was tired. Theo stayed by his side until Vincent faded. On the morning of July 29th, at age 37, Vincent van Gogh died. His final moments weren't violent. They were gentle, intimate, heartbreakingly human. What followed was smaller, simple funeral, a handful of mourners. His coffin was covered in sunflowers, the flower he painted with such devotion. His paintings, now priceless, were propped haphazardly against walls. To the world, his death passed almost unnoticed. To Theo, it was unbearable. He lost not just a brother, but a purpose. Within months, Theo's health collapsed, and he soon died, never seeing the recognition that would come. Vincent's final works weren't statements against life. They were acknowledgements of limits. He had given everything, mind, body, peace, to make inner truth visible. When there was nothing left to give, he stopped. The fields remained. The paintings remained. Vincent did not. When Vincent van Gogh died, the world barely noticed. He left behind no wealth, no fame, no sense of triumph. His paintings hadn't sold. His name was unknown. His life seen as wrapped in failure and tragedy. Yet death silenced him, but freed his work from the burden of explanation. What remained on canvas could now speak without interference. Theo's widow, Johanna, quietly began the work Vincent himself could never do. She preserved letters, organized paintings, firmly believed the world had arrived late for him. Exhibitions followed. Critics looked again, then closer. What they found wasn't madness purpose, not chaos precision of emotion. Vincent's art doesn't comfort, it recognizes. Viewers see themselves in his stormy skies, lonely figures, urgent brushstrokes. He painted things not as they appear, and feeling doesn't expire like fashion. Over time, Van Gogh became more than paintings a symbol, a mirror for the misunderstood, the sensitive, the relentless. His life story was simplified into myth: the tormented genius, the ear, the madness. But his work resisted simplification. The paintings remained disciplined, purposeful, deeply controlled. Suffering didn't create them. Commitment did. Ironically, the recognition Vincent craved arrived in excess. His work became among the most valuable and revered in history. Museums filled, books multiplied. Letters are read like scripture. Yet in this posthumous success lies a quiet cruelty. Validation came when he no longer needed it. What endures isn't tragi-honesty. Vincent never painted to impress. He painted to survive. He gave visible form to emotions too hard to name. Longing, despair, hope, and the unbearable. Intensity of being alive. That's why his work still feels immediate, close. Vincent van Gogh found no peace in life, but he left a language for those still searching. His legacy isn't that suffering births greatness, but that uncompromising pursuit of truth leaves a mark that outlives its maker. The man quietly vanished. The voice grew louder across generations. Before jazz had a name, before it had rules, before it was written down or argued over, New Orleans had already made it inevitable. This wasn't a city that politely waited for culture. It absorbed it, mixed it, reshaped it in the heat.
Wow.
Sound was
Thank
everywhere,
you,
not as
TLC.
entertainment,
I love
but as
you.
atmosphere.
Thank you
Music
so much.
was as ordinary as timidity.
Thank you.
At the
I
turn
love
of the
you.
20th century, New Orleans wasn't like other American cities. French, Spanish, African, Caribbean, American influences layered over one another, never fully melting. Languages blended, religions overlapped, traditions collided daily. The result wasn't harmony
hello,
in the
Tina.
classical sense.
Hello, Baro Tina.
Friction creates heat. Heat
Thank you
creates
so much,
motion.
donate to me. Thank you.
In the
I
city,
love you.
music wasn't confined to concert halls.
Thank you so much.
It
Donate
lived
super
in the
chat. I
streets.
love you.
Brass bands marched through neighborhoods for weddings, funerals, parades, sometimes all in the same week. In churches, you heard hymns shaped by African calandrus bonds. At docks, work songs. In dance halls, late-night rhythms. There was no clear line between sacred and profane. Everything fed everything else. One of the most important places was Congo Square, where enslaved and free black people gathered on Sundays to dance. Drum preserve rhythmic traditions that weren't supposed to survive. These weren't performances. They were preserved memory, rhythm, passed body to body. Generation to generation,
Wow.
when language and
Thank you,
homeland had been
Chelsea.
taken.
I love
At the same
you.
time, European musical
Okay.
traditions brought structure, harmony,
Mà
notation,
xong thì
instruments,
Pop it. Okay,
formal
Baro.
training.
Okay.
Marching bands played with precise formation. Grand works were staged in opera houses. Conservatory-trained musicians lived blocks away from ear-trained street players in New Orleans. These worlds didn't stay separate. They listened to each other. Crucially, the city didn't demand purity. You could borrow, bend, distort, reconcile. Mistakes were tolerated.
Hello, Chelsea.
Improvisation wasn't
I
failure,
love you.
it was expected. Here.
Wow. Thank
Music
you
was
for
something to
coming.
do, not something to
I love
perfect.
you.
Jazz didn't begin as
Thank you so
rebellion
much.
or movement. It rose quietly like humidity from warm ground. New Orleans
Hello,
didn't
good day.
invent jazz on
Hello, good
purpose.
day, Chelsea.
It
Thank you.
simply created an
Thank you,
environment
good day.
where it couldn't not exist.
Chelsea, donate super
Jazz's
chat.
soul formed long before
Wow.
the first trumpet
Oh
note
my
was
God.
bent. Its first heartbeat
Oh my
came
God,
from
Bobby.
people who had everything
Oh my God,
taken
Bobby.
except
Wow.
rhythm. Enslaved
I love
Africans
you.
brought
Thank you
musical
so much.
traditions that couldn't be
Wow,
erased.
Bobby.
Polyrhythm, calandrus
Oh my
bonds,
God.
movement
Wow.
directly tied to sound.
Okay, Chelsea.
Even under
Bobby,
oppression,
Bobby.
music survived because it adapted. It lowered when needed, became collective when solitude was dangerous. Most of it became emotional truth in sound. In New Orleans, sorrow didn't stay quiet. Work songs rose from docks and fields, keeping time, giving voice to exhaustion and endurance. Spirituals
Jesse,
blended African
Jesse,
music
Bobby.
with Christian imagery,
Thank you so much,
lifting
Donate to me.
sorrow upward. These weren't songs to impress. They were songs to hold people together. Rhythm became structure. Repetition became reassurance. Unlike most of the United States,
Wow.
New Orleans
Wow.
allowed some musical practices
Jesse.
to survive
Okay,
openly.
good day, Jesse.
Black
Bobby,
musicians played publicly in parades, funerals, social gatherings. Music followed people from birth to grave. Funerals themselves were musical journeys. Slow, mournful rhythm to the grave joyful, defiant tempo on the return. Death didn't end the music. It sharpened it. Dog blues also began taking shape here. Not yet a formal genre, emotional vocabulary. Bent notes, vocal slides, unresolved tension expressing what words couldn't. Pain wasn't hidden. It was shaped, stretched, released. This emotional honesty would become jazz's defining trait. Importantly, these traditions were never static. Musicians constantly listened to European harmony drifting from opera houses, Caribbean rhythms arriving at ports. They borrowed freely. A hymn could become a dance tune. A march could loosen, become quirky, alive. Rigid tempos began to soften. Spaces appeared between beats. Music began to breathe. Improvisation grew naturally from this environment. When life is unpredictable, rigid repetition means less. Musicians learned to respond in the moment, to the crowd, to other players, to feeling. It wasn't chaos. It was conversation. By the late 19th century, something new was forming. Still nameless, still evolving but unmistakable. If early jazz was conversation, then Louis Armstrong changed its grammar. Born into deep poverty in New Orleans, Armstrong's childhood was marked by instability, violence, and hunger. Music wasn't. Initially, ambition. It was chance survival. After a childhood incident, he was sent to a reform school where he first learned to play cornet. What began as discipline quickly became destiny. Armstrong absorbed the city's sounds the way others learned. Language, brass bands, street parades, listening to older players who taught by example, not lecture. Yet from the start, there was something different in his playing. Where others blended into collective improvisation, Armstrong's horn spoke. His tone was bold, clear, emotionally direct. Recognizable even in the crowd, pre-Armstrong jazz emphasized collective expression. Everyone played together, lines intertwined. Armstrong didn't destroy this tradition. He restructured it. He brought the individual forward. His solos weren't just decorated breaks. They were statements, stories told with confidence, humor, and authority. When Armstrong played, time seemed to reorganize around him. His sense of rhythm was equally revolutionary. Armstrong didn't follow the beat. He pushed against it, stretched it, danced with it. This would later be called swinging like feeling new. Can't notate but instantly recognize. Jazz stopped marching and started breathing. His influence spread quickly. Other players began giving solos more space, more narrative weight. Bands reorganized around featured players. Jazz began shifting from collective texture toward individual voice without losing its collective root. Armstrong also transformed. Jazz's voice literally. His gravelly vocals, playful phrasing, spontaneous scat singing treated the human voice like another instrument. Singing didn't mean perfection or polish. It meant expression. Feeling mattered more than flawlessness. What? Armstrong represented this possibility. He showed jazz could carry personality without losing soul, maintain structure without rigidity. Through him, jazz stepped onto bigger stages without abandoning its origins, but amplifying them. New Orleans gave jazz its bones. Armstrong gave it the spine and the face the world would remember. As jazz matured, New Orleans could no longer contain it. Economic pressure, racial violence, the harsh hand of segregation pushed thousands of black families north in what became known as the Great Migration. Musicians went with them, carrying the sound like a passport. Jazz didn't leave New Orleans. It compressed the city into memory, rhythm, and style. Chicago became the first major destination. There, jazz found larger venues, bigger audiences, longer nights. The music changed in response. Collective improvisation gave way to sharper solos. Band arrangements tightened, tempo increased. Urban life demanded urgency, and jazz complied. What once floated in open streets now echoed in brick-walled, smoke-filled clubs. New York came later, especially Harlem, where jazz met artistic ambition. The music entered ballrooms, theaters, recording studios,